Hello and welcome back to the Game Bet Match podcast. I'm your host, Manny Friedman, along with my co-host.
Brad Sloan back in the house.
Back in the house. So round one is in the books mostly. There are some rain delayed matches that are continuing that will continue later today. But we just wanted to come back to the show to kind of revisit all of our bets for the last couple of days. And we want to give you some takeaways so you kind of know where we're thinking heading into the rest of the tournament and going forward. So let's get right into it. We're going to talk about our first round bets. We're going to kind of, instead of going through everything, we're going to kind of try to do it in a fun way where we're going to like note our smartest bet, our dumbest bet, our most painful bet, as well as the bet that did the best bet that didn't cash. And we're going to kind of discuss some takeaways at the end. Is there anything else you want to add to the intro?
No, I mean, it's just crazy, man. It's fourth round of podcasting already. So we had a solid 4-setter in round one, a tough 5-setter in round two in about 3 hours. And then round three was a little easier. So we'll see how long this one goes. Will this be a 3-setter or a 5-setter? I don't think anybody knows yet.
Brad and I also work full-time jobs, so we are exhausted, but like the adrenaline is keeping us going. Like this is like we were just talking about it. It's like a second full-time job, but it's so worth it, isn't it?
I don't know if it's worth it. It's fun. I don't know if I get like a feeling of worthiness out of it though. That might be a little overstated.
Well, if we do better, day two was terrible for both of us. But if we
maybe if I did better. But anyways, I guess with that, man, you can kick it off and go through your best bets and worst bets.
All right, so let's. I'll share the screen here, and we'll go to our master spreadsheet of all the bets. So. Jesus Christ, it's a lot of bets for one tournament. So for me, day one was terrific. I did very well. I was up, I think, 6.5 units. Day two, not so much. You can see all these L's. So going through my smartest bet, I think I have to go with day one. For me, it's easily Lechka. For me, I was kind of shocked to see that at plus 215. Like his form was really good coming into that match. Like he pushed Nori, he won against Zverev in United Cup, which I know isn't a great win with Zverev's form, but it was 2-4. He was gaining confidence, just seemed to be striking the ball well. And Coric hasn't really shown anything besides that 3-set match against Tsitsipas, who he always plays tough. I thought that was a 50-50 match, and to get that at plus 215 was kind of a no-brainer. So I hit that in two different ways. I hit it on the money line, and I also hit it with the game spread, and both cashed, obviously, as he won easily, I think 3-3-3. So definitely my best bet of the first 2 days. I also hit this Svercina versus Munar. Munar is just terrible on hard court, and like Svercina was acclimated with the conditions coming through qualifying. He was impressive in qualifying too. So winning that 3-2-2 was a nice win as well. I know like it's interesting because like these are two picks that Brad and I disagreed on. Brad didn't sway me the other way, luckily, for my sake. And I know that this is Brad's dumbest bet. Probably, right? If you want to get into that.
Yeah. So my dumbest bet are those two. Those two were terrible bets. Bad ideas from the start. One of my takeaways from a betting perspective is that I need to get a better understanding of how to bet Borna Coric, or I need to stop betting him, because when I bet him to win, he always loses. So yeah, I think that's my biggest one of my takeaways for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned in previous pods, like the only good result he had was Cincinnati, right? So
I'm just like stupidly convinced that like because of that he's this great fast hardcourt player, and I think he just had one good week. I think it could have been on any.
I know.
It probably could have been on any hardcourt, and it probably wouldn't have made a difference. I think it was just like a good draw. And
yeah, no, he had a really tough draw. I mean, he beat some quality players in Cincinnati.
Yeah, you're right.
You're right. So
it's just, he had a really good week. He just had like an elite week where he showed up for one great week and was an amazing player. But yeah, because I got trapped on him at the U.S. Open badly by Brooksby, and now I got trapped here at the very next slam on Lechka, and badly trapped. Like this wasn't this was not a competitive match. And I actually had Coric in straight sets. I had like I missed that by as much as possible. Like, if you get like a wooden spoon bet, like an award for missing a bet by as much as possible, I would have gotten the award there. So
Yeah. Yeah. I
and then
mean,
Munar's a similar thing. Like, I just didn't give Sforcina enough respect as somebody who made it through qualies, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a few minutes.
mm-hmm. As far as my dumbest bet goes, I got to go with this Krudik against Schwartzman. So I went all in. I bet him on the money line. I bet him at -1.5 sets and -2.5 sets and put half a unit on each of those. And I was like, Schwartzman is just so bad. And I was impressed with how Krudik played against Kudla, kind of a similar player. And I was just like, I just don't see anything that Schwartzman has done recently, which is valid. But what has Krutik proven, especially in a hot day, versus kind of a veteran, who has played way more of these slam matches and stuff like that. So I think I probably would have been okay placing just one bet there and just losing one because, of the plus money, but like to go all in was kind of dumb on my part. So I'm going to have to revise my strategy. And like, if I believe in something, I can, but like one guy is just not better than the other guy, just like don't go all in. I think there was one person on Twitter who posted like how favorites do so much better than underdogs generally.
There was, yeah.
Right? So I kind of went away from that in that bet, and I got to kind of stay disciplined more so when making those kind of bets. Another one of my dumb bets, I believe, was Kekmanovic. So Kekmanovic is one guy that I'm going to fade, but to take him -4.5 against Jerry, who went through qualifying, acclimated with the conditions, big serve, like that's a lot of games to get, even with him on good form. So I think that was not one of our better bets.
I don't know. I mean, I think that was just Kekmanovic is really, really, really out of it. I mean, he must be, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's this. I mean, we had mentioned on the last pod, like Jari was 0 for his last 17 against top 100 guys. So to not only lose to a guy who struggles that much against guys in the top 100, but to get spanked in straights and not even to get spanked like that in straight sets is really bad for Kekmanovic. Like really, really bad.
Yeah, definitely. Another one of my dumb bets, I think, was Krajinovic +2.5 sets against Holger Rune. You'd think that was a good bet, but like Krajinovic is just not a guy to bet because his compete level is actually really low. Like he doesn't compete very hard. I don't know if you've noticed that. I've seen now multiple matches with him where he just goes away.
What happened in the third set of that match with Rune? Did he compete hard or did he go away? I don't even. I honestly, there's no setter, but I didn't really follow.
Yeah, it's just lack of
2, 3, and 4. Like, so not horrible.
It's not that he gives in. It's just like I don't know. He's there, right? But like, there's no energy. There's no anything, and like maybe I'm just pissed. Maybe that wasn't such a dumb bet because like, +2.5 sets is going to be one of our takeaways, but like, I don't know. It's, but I mean, overall there's a lot of luck that went my way, I feel, in the first day, with good bets as well. But, in the second day, it was just, I don't know if it was more, I think it was decent bets, but just like poor luck and just things didn't go my way. So I know you went through your like dumbest bet. So what were your smartest bets for the first 2 days?
Yes, my smartest bet was probably actually one that didn't cash. And I know, Manny, you and I both jumped on this, the Varias money line against Zverev. Mm-hmm. That was a good match last night. Varias, I mean, he lost 6-4 in the fifth, so he had some sort of chance to win. I thought Zverev was the significantly better player in the fourth and the fifth. Mm-hmm. But Varias did put himself in a position where he certainly could have won, and at +750, like in any situation, if I can get to 4-all in the fifth at plus 750, I think that's a good thing.
Definitely.
So that would probably be one of my smartest bets.
Did you bet Farias on the game spread as well?
I did not have I took him plus 2.5 sets.
Okay. Good
so
bet.
I hit that, and I think I hit that for a similar to what you did. I think it might have even been plus one. It might have even been plus money for him to win a set. So that was a good bet. It didn't officially cash yet, but it will. The Cressy ARV over, I think, was a really good bet that both of us placed, Manny.
Just play Cressy overs. I mean, it seems like I know they're ridiculously high. They're always like 39, 38, 40, you know, but like every set goes to a tiebreak, and it's just like it doesn't matter how.
Well, he can't break serve, right? I think I talked about this in the last podcast. His receiving points won is in the bottom 5 for a top 50 guy. I think on hardcourt he wins like 30% of his points on return. Most guys are up around 35, and that, like, while that only sounds like a couple points per set is a huge difference. So that's definitely one that was a pretty astute bet. One that wasn't as high of odds, but where we definitely made a good bet was betting Medvedev on the under 30.5 games, especially against like a grinder like Giron. Like, there was no way Giron was going to be competitive in multiple sets of that match. The only thing that was really a fear there with the under 30.5 was Giron somehow squeaking out a competitive 7-5 or 7-6 set if Medvedev's level dropped. But that was a pretty, in my mind, that was a pretty clean bet.
His level would need to significantly drop for that to happen. Plus, Giron has nothing to hurt Medvedev with, right? And he's very one-dimensional. So even if Medvedev's level drops, I don't even know if that hits, because every Giron service game is just a total adventure. You know, like even if he plays out of his mind, the game probably goes to deuce, right? So
I don't know if that's true, right? I think it's probably a little bit of an overstatement, but I'll agree with you that Giron is going to have a very hard, like, it's not going to be easy for him to hold serve against Medvedev. That's pretty much all I got for smart bets. I think I just named my dumbest bets. I have a lot of
the Nishioka money line against Ymer. I think that was smart on both of us.
Yeah, I think that was smart on both of us as well. Yeah.
Good bet. Yeah. It's just, he's just a better tennis player. It's just that simple, you know?
Yeah.
He's just, and to get that at nearly even money, I mean, we thought Ymer was a live dog considering Nishioka's slam record, but you know,
he wasn't. Yeah, he was. And I guess it was 2 competitive sets and 1 not so competitive, but I mean, that was definitely a case where betting the better. I mean, the money line was so shallow. I thought the money line was going to be a lot deeper than that. I thought it was going to be like minus, 150, 200, something like that. Where I was actually like looking at it as a match to bet Ymer, and then when I saw the line, I was like, "Whoa, I got to go the other way."
Yeah.
Other than that, like, I think I covered most of my. I mean, obviously, Manny, you and I both place like 20 bets a day, so like that, that's
right.
What was your luckiest bet, Manny?
Luckiest bet? Write it down. I forgot to write this one down, actually. So why don't you go first?
Well, I don't have one. My luckiest bet was Bonsai winning in 4 sets. We had Bonsai minus 1.5 sets, and he won in 4 sets against Bellucci. That was my luckiest bet.
That was pretty lucky. I got that too. And the third set.
I mean, I thought it was more like 50-50 lucky. Like, I didn't think that was one that we shouldn't have pulled out. I thought it was just like even money kind of lucky. I mean, like, I think did one of the sets go to a tiebreak? Like, Bonsai lost the first. And I want to say there were a couple of competitive.
And the third went to a tiebreak, and I think Bellucci was up in the tiebreak.
Yeah, so I guess that was pretty lucky.
That was. I think maybe one of my luckiest bet was the late night match last night. Maciek plus 2.5 sets against Ruud. It went to Ruud won the second in a tiebreak, and then the third was a back and forth affair. And I was kind of expecting Maciek to go away, and he was kind of like tugging his leg. He was on the border of cramps. And then went to a tiebreak, and Maciek just lifted his level. I mean, he was attacking the net consistently. He pulled out that set, I think 7-5 in the breaker, so that cashed kind of late. So that's I I think that was probably my luckiest bet. What else is there? Did you bet that match, Machak Rude?
I did not. I stayed away entirely.
Uh-huh.
More of a lack of belief in Machak. And then the thing with Rude is he's been so all over the place. Like he's actually had some good results at the World Tour Finals and things. So
Yeah,
I was a little worried.
that's
But
true.
yeah, so I stayed away entirely. What was your most painful bet? We both had some pain.
Ooh, yeah, we had some pain. Kane is probably Hallis. Hallis is quite painful, plus 2.5 sets against this.
Yeah, that was really painful for both of us. I mean,
Yeah.
we both had the 2.5 set. I had the 2. I had the over in the 6 on the, or the 5 and 5.5 on the spread.
Well, the
Hallis,
6
I think,
was
was
a
up.
push.
Hallis had set points in the third, right?
Yeah.
And then he was up 3-0 in the tiebreak with two mini breaks.
Oof.
So that was a really tough loss to swallow.
That was. And Hallis played a hell of a third set. I mean, I don't think that's a dumb bet on either of our parts. I mean, Hallis had great form coming in, right?
No, I think it was a smart bet, and that's why it's a smart bet that doesn't cash, which is why it's so painful, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And I think
do you have anything else?
What was the total? We both hit 36.5, right? I think we had that in a parlay.
Yeah.
Right. And it was
the total was like 30 or
6.
something. It was 3, 4, and 6. It was 30, but it was if Counts would have won the 30, would have obviously hit the over, right? And that's why
exactly.
it's
everything was riding on that third set breaker. So
yeah. Well, in the third set in general, Hallis had all those set points on 5-6.
Yeah. That was painful. What else was kind of painful? I mean, going back to unlucky bets from my part, I think Fritz -9 against Bash. Like, what were the chances that Bash plays probably his first good match?
I guess it's not unlucky because Bash actually did put a pretty good match together, right? Like, we were just wrong. We just didn't expect Bash to put that good of a match together, or put a match together, period. And he actually, like, especially after the way he lost the first 2 sets, like, he actually like hung around for the third and the fourth.
There was no sample size or anything that to suggest that Bash was going to keep that competitive. Also, Fritz has been playing the tennis of his life. So you add 2 and 2 together.
Or to suggest that Bash was going to keep that competitive after losing the first 2 sets. After the way he lost set 1 when he was up 4-2 and blew 4 games in a row.
I think
I thought that was like complete going away mode. When it was 6-4, 6-2, I was like, oh, we got this. 4-2 and 2, cash money. Like money in the bank.
Well, you were actually thinking of live betting the 6 love, right? In the third set.
I was gonna, yeah.
It's good that you did.
And that luckily we laid off that, and
yeah.
So
probably Hallis is my most unlucky bet. Yeah, I would say that. Maybe Coria plus 2.5 against Fucsovics, but Coria pushed that to 5, so I don't know if that's lucky or good. It's probably more good, but Fucsovics has been struggling, and like Coria, maybe he's starting to get better on hard. That 3-setter against Giron in Auckland, maybe that kind of I don't know, but
like, I have a hard time imagining that. Like his game just doesn't scream me. He's getting better on hard.
So if Coria would play Baez on a fast hard court, who wins that?
Not tennis viewers, right? Does anybody win that? Like,
yeah, tennis viewers certainly don't win.
Tennis ball manufacturers, I guess they win because they probably need extra balls for the match because of how long the rallies are going to be. Like, I mean, I can't really think of who wins that match.
Yeah. So anything else you want to add about our bets?
I mean, for me, I've got a whole pack of unlucky bets. Just a whole pack of pain.
Okay.
So you can flip over to my spreadsheet and we'll just go through them.
Just go through one by one. They're all unlucky.
No, but there's a bunch that are really unlucky and some that are sneaky unlucky. So if you go, so I mean, starting up there. So again, we talked about the We talked about Hallis. That was probably the only really unlucky one for day one.
Mhm.
Everything else that I missed was probably just dumb, to be honest.
FA,
But then you get down to day two. Oh, I forgot about the night. Actually, Nakashima was also sneaky unlucky. So I had Nakashima up there 3-1 at plus 320. And if you remember, that went 5. Even though Nakashima lost, it went 5. And Nakashima lost 2 of the 3 tiebreaks in the first 4 sets. So if he would have won 2 of the 3 tiebreaks, which is probably the most, if they were going to play 3 tiebreaks, that would probably be the expected result, right? Like probably half the time, Nakashima wins 2 and not more, but just 2. Then Nakashima would have won that 3-1.
Right.
So that, I think that was like a sneaky painful loss because that easily could, and at a plus 320, like Nakashima was the slightly better player for the first 4 sets. And I think I got like the levels right. I just missed on who was going to win the tiebreaks. And the one time it was like 12-10 or something, wasn't it? It was like a really long tiebreak.
Yeah, I think that was the second set breaker.
Yeah, the second set breaker. So that was like a sneaky, super painful one.
Going back to smart bets, I think this was also a very smart bet. Cerundolo minus 2.5 sets against Pela. We both hit that.
Pela was just not good. I watched some of that, and we'll talk about that a little bit too. I don't have a higher opinion. Like that did not raise my opinion of Cerundolo. It just made me realize that like as you would expect, like coming back, after a year and a half and playing one match you're not going to play very good tennis.
Right.
So then going to night two was, probably as painful as night one. So missing on the Varias money line was painful. I mean, just because it was an opportunity lost, right? Like if that hits, I would have been in really good shape.
This is painful too. Tsitsipas Hallis over 10 in set 1. That's
painful. Well, because if I would have been the other set, I would have been fine, right? Like that was the only set in the match that wasn't a 6-4 set. It was a 6-3, so that was painful. I mean, I had like a negative 30% ROI, so there's a lot of it is pain. Like I looked at it, I honestly think like if I would have gotten fair luck, I would have been close to break even.
Yeah.
I tried to go through it. Like literally the luckiest bet I could find was that Bonsai bet. And that wasn't that insanely lucky compared to what we're talking about with like this Nakashima. The house was a really bad beat. Then you'll go down to probably the worst beat is where is it down there? Now I can't see it. Oh, the Manarino, not Manarino.
The RCB, the
Italian guy, Berrettini. Oh. I live bet Berrettini when he was down 2 sets at plus 120.
Okay.
And he came back to, actually have that match point and duff that backhand.
That's and then I'd also interesting live bet. I was thinking about live betting that match, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna kind of ride my futures because I had futures money on Berrettini. I'm like,
for me, it was that I was honestly surprised by Murray's fitness level. I thought Murray was going to go away I thought Murray would just run out of gas period in the 5th.
He just has so much will, and he's an all-time great, right? So it's just like, I didn't expect him to go away physically. I just kind of like thought Berrettini's tennis was better, but
Berrettini did duff the backhand. So actually, honestly, it's all over Twitter and all over like any kind of tennis media as being a complete duff. It wasn't as bad as it's being made out to be. Like that's a tougher shot than it looks. Murray's at the net there in front of him, like at least making him hit the ball past him. The ball was low, it was below net height. It's an easy shot for a pro, but it's not like an all-time duff.
Yeah, not an all-time duff, but it's just like, I mean, you can't really get on the guy also because he came back from 2 sets to love and nearly pulled it out. So like
nobody's questioning Berrettini's compete level, right? Like, and this is a Matteo Berrettini house, especially the house of the other guy, the guy who's not speaking right now. So
I'm switching my attention over to Talon Griekspoor. He's my new favorite. We'll get into him a little later, but yeah. I think that's a good bet at plus 120, down 2 sets to love, up 5-4. I mean, I get your rationale there, but yeah, it is painful when you miss a backhand like that. It was painful to see my futures just all, go south. That was just terrible, but yeah.
I mean, I just, honestly, I lost like 7 units yesterday. and 3.5 units were I had a 3.5 unit swing on Berrettini and a 9 unit swing on Brias.
Yeah.
So like it could have been a really good day if those two would have, come through and easily
Right.
those two could have. So it was pretty painful. But that's why I put on the Twitter, like, yeah, it's a terrible day statistically. I don't think it was as terrible as the stats show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, going back to my day 2 bets, it was just bad, period. I mean, like Krajinovic, I put 2 units on that because I was pretty, I thought Rune would have a dip, and I thought Krajinovic is a respectable ATP player and would squeeze out a set. He just can't compete, it feels. We went over Fritz and Basilashvili, Dimitrov and Karatsev. I mean, it was 7-6, 7-5 and still didn't hit. Like you would expect Karatsev to pull out a set there, but he just Karatsev has a tendency to like play well and then just go away. It happened against Griekspoor.
It feels like it's more of a frustration thing, right? Like he just gets frustrated mentally and then that's it. Like,
yeah, but he doesn't he can't get it back once that happens.
Yeah.
So that's a thing to note with Karatsev.
I also think it's really worth mentioning, Manny, that yesterday I think was a really tough day because of the massive delay. So there were 3 or 4 bets I had in my parlays, or not my parlays were my single bets that were the Heat played some sort of role. So like Thompson versus Wolf is in that group, right? Where I thought that fitness would play a role there, and I think it played way less of a role because they got a long break midway through the match.
I thought that in the past, they've always kind of played through it and had a break at the end of the 4th set.
So there's different, I actually read about this today. There's different levels. So I guess it hit like the level 5 where they just stop play. But there's different levels, and like level 4 is when they do that, Manny, when they take like the extended break.
I get it. I mean, these are professional tennis players who are making thousands of dollars. I'm not a big fan of that rule. I think like whoever deals with the conditions better should be the winner of the day.
I don't excuse you from a pure tennis perspective. I think it's also a challenge though with fans, right? Like this tournament is for entertainment for fans, and like it's really dangerous. That's actually where it's the most dangerous, is to have fans out there in 105, 110 degree weather. Like
that's true. Yeah.
Especially fans who are drinking alcohol. I mean, for real. Oh no, I mean, like alcohol has like twice the effect if you're drinking in like that kind of weather. It's like really dangerous. I went to a music concert in Texas one time, and like people would have like 2 beers and be like keeled over because of the heat. It was insane.
Yeah. Yeah. It just dehydrates you. So I can.
Yeah, and you don't think about it, right? You're like, oh, I had 2 beers, but you don't realize the stacking effects of dehydration. Anyways, that's enough of Brad life talk story. Anybody who wants to get a full dissertation of that story sometime.
Yeah. I'm a pharmacist. I don't want to no healthcare news on this podcast. I see it enough in my real life. So yeah, yesterday was just a bad day. Even like the Carballes Baena to win a game in each set at -200.
That was painful. That was painful.
Like Carballes Baena plays a great, first 2 sets, and then
the only thing I'll say that makes that less painful is that Baena won 4 points in the 3rd set. Like it wasn't like he got close to winning a game where he'd be like, "Oh, we were a point away." No. Baena it did not happen in the 3rd set.
Yeah,
but I didn't watch it, to be honest, because I saw Djokovic was up 2 sets and was like, "All right, like I got."
Yeah, and then after the 2 sets, I was like, okay, Carballes Baena will probably win a game here, but like he's won 3 games in the first 2 sets. I just turned it to the Machak Ruud match because I had that +2.5 there. So, and then I had Djokovic to win the first 3 service games at love 15 or 30 at -120. I thought that was a great bet at -120. I love those props. And that was also painful because he won his first 2 games to 15 on serve. And then the 3rd game went I think Djokovic made like 3 forehand errors. So like, I don't know. It's a dumb prop bet, but like, I like the value there.
So what takeaways, Manny, do you have from the first round in terms of like either betting takeaways or tennis tournament?
So let's start with the betting takeaways. So probably my biggest takeaway is don't bet against qualifiers. There have been a lot of qualifiers who we bet against, I feel, that ended up winning outright. Jerry was one of them against Kecmanovic. Stracina against Munar, that was another one. Shang against who did he play? Oh, Oscar Ote. That's another one. So I just think being acclimated with the conditions, that's kind of a bigger factor than we kind of make it out to be. I also think they've had a couple, like having wins, like doesn't really matter against who, but just winning matches gains confidence, right? Like winning is
Yeah,
contagious, right? And when you already
I
have
think that's
three wins
that's a
under the
takeaway for
belt,
me too. I didn't realize this, but because well, that was one of my, so you stole one of my takeaways.
okay.
That was one of my takeaways.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I did a little research into this. So it's basically last year, 20 qualifiers advanced to the second round. And if you remember this, it was obviously 16 qualifiers each slam. So that means that qualifiers win their first round match about a third of the time. Maybe a little bit less. There's usually one or two per year where they match up against each other. So maybe it's probably a little under a third, but it's maybe somewhere between a third and a quarter. But like that's more than I would have expected, actually.
Yeah.
Like they don't do qualifiers have like they're live dogs, if you will, and like I think I agree. I bet against a lot of. I think I went like 3 and 5 betting against qualifiers. Guys like Jerry. I bet Munar against Versina. So I mean, I went, but I lost like I had like a negative 30% ROI or something betting against qualifiers. So it was pretty bad for me.
Yeah, that's we discussed it on one of our pods where we were like, what qualifier has the best chance to make a deep run? And it's like, I feel like most slams, like I don't know this, I didn't really like read the stats like for sure, but like it feels like there's usually a qualifier that makes a third or fourth round, right? Like I think Kachin at the U.S. Open made a third round.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like it's probably one per slam, if that, but it's probably like one per slam that gets there. But I think there's we probably overestimate the gap. In fact, we do, because like we think, 50 versus 180, like that's a big gap, but it's not. Like when we watch tennis, when we watch these, like anybody outside, like, when you watch like these guys in the 60s and 70s play, ranking wise in the 60s and 70s play, like a lot of times they're not that much better than the challenger guys.
It's true.
Which are and the challenger guys are these qualifiers, right? So it's yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said there. I think that's a very well said point.
Mm-hmm. And my second biggest takeaway is not to bet any guy besides Novak or Medvedev to win in straight sets. Because has anyone really proved that they can consistently win straight sets? I just think these matches are too long with too many momentum swings. And like, I understand, like I bet 2.5 Kachin against Busta and Kachin won in straights, but the first set was a tiebreak. I bet 2.5 Kachanov against Zapata, right? Could have gone my way because the first set was a tiebreak as well. So there's just too many swings here where it's just too long of a match where, it doesn't really matter the talent gap. I mean, it does, but unless, if they're in this tournament, they should, be a respectable tennis player and should be competitive in some way, right?
So I'm going to disagree with you there, Manny, actually, because I went 4 and 4. Okay. There were 8 guys in round 1 that I had bet to win in straights. And I went 4 and 4 on those bets and only lost like half a unit. So like for instance, like I had like Hurkacz beating Pedro in straights and he did it pretty easily. I had Kubler over Baez in straights and he won 4 and 4. So like I think it's like individual it's like it's very matchup dependent. So I sort of see what you're saying, but I think like I don't know. I think it depends. Like I think there's a few bottom tier guys who you can. It just depends. I think it just depends. Like, I don't know. Like that for me, that's not nearly as much of a take. Like I understand the logic, but for me, like it just didn't pan out that way.
I just feel like going into a match where you bet it, like I would feel more confident in betting the +2.5 versus the -2.5 because it's just like, you just can't afford any dip from the guy, like
It depends on the guys. You know what I mean? It really depends on the guys. And that's what I had a hard time with is like I tried to parse out like what guys would and which guys wouldn't. But like for every example I did, I had an example of a guy who didn't. So it was tough. And I guess this is the point we could talk about Galan too. Like that was just atrocious.
Mhm.
And that was also that was probably like it's not my most painful because it wasn't really close, but like I don't understand. I mean, that was probably the worst match of the first round. Like I actually watched some of that and there were plenty of people on Twitter like complaining about that match. It was horrible. Shardy had 14 doubles and 67 unforced errors in 36 games, and he won in 4 sets.
That's atrocious. That's
how bad it was. I mean, the guy, if it would have gone 5 sets, there probably would have been 100 errors. Shardy at times didn't look like he could like walk around the court. Like he looked like he wasn't going to make it through the match. But then Galan would just not like take advantage of. Shardy was hitting slices like off his back foot. Like, and I mean, they kind of looked like, Manny, if you hit like your non drop shot backhands. And Galan wasn't taking any advantage. Like it was really frustrating match to watch. Like Galan would just like hit the ball back in the court. Like Shardy had no backhand. He couldn't do anything on the backhand besides like just like chip it to the middle of the court, float it. And then Galan would just like hit it back to him and then like continue the rally until eventually he'd go down the line and Shardy would have his forehand and like have a chance. But it was really, 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 really terrible match. And like that's I don't see anything good about Shardy from that match. Galan just played horrendous.
Yeah, the memes on Twitter were quite funny. Like I'm at a sports bar, there's a great football game on, yet I'm, watching Galan versus Shardy on my phone.
Yeah.
Like it's just, I mean, it was just terrible. It was just horrible. I mean, you actually talked me into the -2.5 sets there, and I'm like very hesitant to play those bets. More so than you
are.
It
wouldn't have mattered if you played 2.5 sets, 1.5 sets, or money line. Like, I mean, Galan was that bad, right? So you can't complain about me making you take more risk.
No.
It was just like Galan was just a disaster. I don't feel bad about making that bet because Shardy wasn't good. Yeah. And like I had no illusions about Galan being a great tennis player. Right. I knew Shardy would be bad.
Right.
It didn't matter how bad Shardy was because Galan was just worse.
Just like it was just horrible.
I mean, he couldn't make a ball. He couldn't make an aggressive ball on the court, so he couldn't be aggressive. And it was just like really brutal to watch. So he tried to ATP push his way to victory, which is obviously hard to do. Like these guys, especially when the other guy just pushes the ball back, and you just push it back to him. Like what are you doing?
Just terrible. Yeah. I mean, do you have any more betting takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, so I have 2. First is I'm not happy with Kyrgios. So I had him in our contest to make the quarters, and I had him at +550, and I had him at +450 to go out in the 3rd and 4th round.
So those are all pluses on your book, right?
The 550 and the 450 are, but I also have him in our ace battle, right?
Oh that's true.
So that's a bunch of aces he won't get to hit now in 5-set matches. So like.
That's true.
And I don't know how long he's going to be out now with this knee surgery.
He said he'll be back for Indian Wells, but that's kind of a quick turnaround. I don't see that happening. And he's probably not going to play the clay. So, well, I mean, I think his girlfriend said that back to the girlfriend. I think he said he wants to play Paris because he wants to like travel with her.
Yeah, to Paris. Yeah. But I mean, I don't necessarily like. Tennis. I guess having him, I guess aces are aces. I'll take him where I can get him, but like he's not going to get as many on clay, right? Like this was a real opportunity for him to get some aces, and we missed out. So and I thought he had a real opportunity to make the quarters. His draw wasn't that good, so
it's pretty tough. I mean, he had Rublev and he has Rune in his quarters. So it's pretty tough.
I mean, I don't know. I think it was less tough than it was probably in the bottom. I mean. I'd rather have Rublev than FAA. I'd rather have Rublev than probably 5 or 6 of the guys in the top 8. So,
well, I mean,
and I'm not as high on Rune as you are. So that's part of it
true.
too.
That's a good point. Good point. Yeah. And so,
and then my last takeaway is I had a disaster of a time prop betting. So I was 1-4. I think 1-4 or 1-5 on prop bets.
Mm-hmm.
So, and specifically set betting. I probably should get away from single set betting, especially betting set spreads or set over unders. It just feels like they have a ton of variance.
On the
I did
variance.
hit Rublev team, but I missed 4 out of 5 where I prop bet. Including, yeah, that's a prop bet as well. So the RCB bet that you've highlighted there. I missed wildly on Kokkinakis. Bagnus Evans barely went over, but Rublev team barely went under. And then I missed on Bonsai. So yeah,
there is a lot of variance. It just seems like a lot of luck, right?
Right. That's what I mean. Like and like variance is not your friend is the better because the book takes the VIG.
Right.
You're just giving away your VIG. So that's probably something. I'm not saying I'm going to go away from prop betting. I'm just going to be smarter about it. Like I'm going to look for prop bets that make sense, as opposed to these like
the only set over unders involves, like, for me, it's the over on like a Isner match or a Cressy match or something, like, because it's always going to be set at 10.5. So you're basically betting, does the set go to a tiebreaker? And I think like Isner and Cressy's like matches go like what 60% of the sets go to tiebreakers.
Insane. Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. So yeah, I think, but anyone else where, you know, there's rallies and stuff, like if a break point goes your way or doesn't go your way, like that doesn't hit, you know. So
in either direction, right? Like either way, over or under. So
yeah. That's definitely a good takeaway. I mean, I feel like we were very unlucky with the Djokovic props, you know, but like otherwise it's probably a good takeaway, right? Like Tsitsipas and Hallis over 10, right? It's 3, 4, and 6. So if it's the second set, it's a push, right? If it's third set, it's a win.
So I'm just giving away my VIG there. That's all I'm doing. I'm a minus 115, so I'm just giving away 15% of my bet.
Right.
It's just not smart.
True. Yeah. How about like from a tennis perspective? Like who are guys that you're looking to kind of back right now, and who are guys?
So I mean, some of the qualifiers, right? So like Shang has been really. I mean, Shang was impressive in round 1, beating Oat. More from like a composure perspective. So he was up 2 sets pretty easily, like 4-2, but then he lost the third set in a tiebreak to Oat. And Oat, Oat unleashes bombs, right? He's hitting like 130, 140 mile bombs on the serve. And Shang held in there. I think he broke Oat to win the match. So that's one takeaway impressive. For sure.
I mean, we were thinking of live betting that, right? Because we were like, oh, Shang is going to crumble, you know, but he didn't. Credit to him. So
tough match that's a takeaway. Another takeaway for me, that may not be true. I think a takeaway for me is I thought Zverev looked a little better in the 4th and the 5th set last night. I thought I started to see he didn't look like he was like a top 10 player yet, but I started to see signs that he was coming around. Even though Varias extended both of those sets, I started to see the first set was a disaster from Zverev. I think he had like 2 or 3 doubles in a game at 4-5. So I
bet the over 5 doubles for Zverev.
But he only got to 5, and he had like 3
he only got to 5. That's
in the first
true.
set. Like
that's
so,
true.
He got it under control. So, and it seemed like he was a little bit more mentally back, like a little more mentally engaged. So that was definitely a takeaway from me from a tennis perspective, because that's a well-known guy who's got a chance.
I mean Goffin withdrew, right? So that's not his second round opponent. He will either play Denis Kudla or Denis Kudla or
Safulin. Yeah,
Safulin, right?
And that's a really cush matchup for Zverev.
It is. If he had to
those
play
are 2 guys he'd love to play.
Yeah, if he had to play Goffin there, I would like Goffin's chances. And I placed I think Zverev to lose in the second round as a prop at as a futures at plus 250. So that was kind of disappointing for me to see Goffin go out. But yeah, I mean, yeah.
So that's one. I didn't see much of the Diego match, but it didn't sound like it was good. It sounded like he's still not really there yet.
Yeah, he wasn't good. He was just better in key moments. Like I felt like he faced breakpoint in every service game. I think like Krutik was down an early break in the first set, but like he had like 6 chances to get back on serve even in the first. So, and then the second set, I think Schwartzman choked that away. He had like 4 set points or something. So, and he choked that away. And then like, he's playing close matches against a guy I never heard of before. probably I think ranked near the top 200. So not a good. No, he hasn't shown me anything. He hasn't shown me anything. So I'm going to continue to fade Schwartzman. Maybe not as hard against challenger level guys, but
Yeah.
um,
But it's ATP level guys. That makes sense. Edmund again, right? Edmund's another takeaway, like 4-2-0. So not just from betting, but like
absolutely horrible.
not good. Otherwise, like in terms of who's gonna win the tournament, like top 10 guys, I didn't
Well,
see
I
a
have
whole
some other
lot.
guys I want to fade. Rinderknecht, he actually looked really bad since the second set against Huesler in Auckland. He's just been absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, to lose 3-3 and 2 to Watnuki, who's like plays is decent, but like just it's not a good loss. To lose that in straight sets is just terrible. There was another guy. Oh, obviously Kekmanovic we're gonna fade. How about Dominic Thiem? We got to talk about him. So like, what happened against Rublev? Like he just looked so out of it. Was there like an injury there, or
I heard there was something physical. I heard there was a physical issue. I don't know what it was, but I heard something on Twitter about his body giving in on him. I didn't read into it at all, but yeah, I mean, I think Thiem's probably done. Like he's done as a slam contender. He might be like Murray, where he's still an ATP level player and like an ATP card holder and like a legitimate one, right? Maybe he's a threat in like 250s, 500s, but I think he's done as a slam contender. Like, yeah, I mean, Thiem used to train harder than anyone. And he used to play tournament after tournament after tournament. I think he just wore himself out.
but it wasn't like a physical injury. It was a physical injury. It was a wrist injury. It wasn't like a knee or something like wear and tear. I feel it was just kind of more fluky.
But I feel like a wrist is similar, right? Like you need your wrist, right? And if you overuse your wrist, you start have issues with it, right? Like I don't know. I have a feeling like it's going to be. And the question is, can he come back and it may be that he can't train anymore at the level he needs to stay at that top level.
But I'd expect that rest in the offseason to kind of help him. Like he was starting to show signs of improvement.
So this is
End
one
of the
this is
year.
going to go against you because I remember. So well, we talked about it in the last podcast, but I remember because Ferrer's my favorite player of all time. And I remember Ferrer talking about that once he couldn't practice every day, like all out or as hard as he needed to, it was a huge problem for his playing because he couldn't get enough ball striking practice in to be like ready for matches. So like basically for some of these, I mean, Thiem may be the same way, that because he's going to play so many rallies and balls and hit so many balls, like he needs to train really, really hard to actually be ready to play. And so if he can't do that, then he can't be like the ball striker. He needs like the timing gets a little off. So
are you fading him from a betting perspective? Like even if he's like healthy?
Not yet. I mean, I think my level of concern is like a 3 or a 4 or something, but I think there's a level of concern there. I want to see FAA put some good matches together. I mean, I know you're not going to be surprised because it's your whole takeaway, but I didn't like the losing a 6-1 set to Pospisil. I think a couple of other sets were competitive. And I know Pospisil has a big serve and a big game, so I'm not concerned yet, but I want to see him put a good match together tonight against Molcan.
Yeah, I think it's a better matchup. He's gonna like, first of all, they're both Canadians, right? So they know each other in and out, right? So that's why I think another one of my smart bets, actually, we didn't discuss, but the plus 2.5 sets there. It's just they train together, they know their game, each other so well that like there's that's why it was kind of close, even though FAA's level is way better. Plus, I mean, FAA just starts slam slow. It's a proven thing. Like he's done it time in and time again. He just I don't know, that early slam nerves. He finds a way to win.
Yeah.
He's better at making in-match adjustments. But I also think Molchan like on fast hardcore is just so much better matchup. Like he's gonna have.
I just don't understand why FAA in his 5th year as a pro playing, 5th year on the tour, like truly on the tour, would still have like slam nerves. Like he's been around enough of these. Like I don't really understand why your 18th time showing up to a slam, you're gonna have like these insane nerves and like. So that A, and then B, we said after the loss for and I wasn't worried. Now I'm still not really worried. My level of concern is probably like a 2 or something.
Yeah.
But I want to see him put together a good match tonight. And if he does, then the concern goes away and I'm fine. But there's like a slight level of concern there. But I mean, other than that, like a lot of these guys are really, really, really similar and really, really competitive with one another, right? And like outside of that, I didn't have a whole lot of like massive take. I mean, also what we just talked about, like we didn't have a lot of massive takeaways. Probably the only other big takeaways, like these guys are all much more competitive than we sometimes think. Like we see 50 and 150 or 50 and 200 and think there's a gap. And in reality, the gap barely exists, if at all.
And but you're still more reluctant than I am to take the plus 2.5 sets. Like you think it's very match dependent, whereas I think it's just kind of the hit. Makes sense. Makes sense. I think both hold true.
I think there are some really bad. I mean, like I would bet 2.5 sets against Chardy again.
Minus 2.5 sets. Who does Chardy?
Yeah, like whoever's playing Chardy in the second round, I'll take the minus 2.5 sets. I don't even think it's known yet, but whoever's playing Chardy in the second round, I'll take the minus 2.5 sets. I don't even care who it is.
He plays. He plays Dan Evans.
I'll lay the 2.5 sets with Evans. Like Evans is. We'll have to see what the line is. You may not even get a good price on that, but
right. I mean, Evans is struggling. Like he lost.
He is, but he shouldn't. I mean, Chardy was really bad. Like it was not. I mean, if he double faults 14 times and makes 25 errors per set, I think Dan Evans can beat him.
Agreed. And I think Evans is gonna attack that backhand better than Galan did.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll attack it. Like Evans will attack him, right? Like he'll attack him. So
yeah,
I
agree.
But I'm trying to think. Other than that, in terms of like players, like any takeaways from the Nakashima McDowell match, I really don't have any. Like, no. I want to see Mackie put together another match before I really have any belief in Mackie.
What I expected, I hit the over there, and I was like, these guys are gonna.
I'm just disappointed because usually Nakashima beats guys at Mackie's level, but it's the first match of the year, so I'm not like overreacting there yet. But,
right.
Obviously, Nadal Draper was a popcorn match, but it went exactly as I expected. Like I think you and I both called it. Like the first 2 sets was going to be 1-1, and then Nadal was going to pull away, and that's exactly what happened.
And Draper, so I'm not very fond of him. I mean, he has a lot of issues physically. His fitness level is just not up to par. I mean, like he plays 2 sets against a bad Nadal. Nadal wasn't good, and he's just like absolutely keeled over, calling the trainer for cramps. Like that's not good. Like for people that think he has a lot of potential, could win slams, be the next.
Well, I think he does, right? I think
he has
that's
game.
The thing, right? You have to separate like hype because of potential versus like where is he now? But the alternate view of that is at some point he has to take that potential and turn it into reality.
Right.
Right. So like if I look like what is Draper's age? What is he, like 24 or something? 21. So 21. I guess that's the hype, is that he's only 21, but like I don't know, man. Shang's out there winning matches at 18 or 17, however old he is. So
yeah, but I mean, everyone would back in 2017, Zverev was like, oh, he's the next big thing because he won like Masters 1000s at age 18, and then he was the youngster, and then he's not the youngster anymore. And has he won a slam? No. Has he really been close?
But I mean, I do think Zverev is. But Zverev's done certainly a lot more than Draper has. Like if Draper has the career that team has, or not the team that Zverev has, I think people consider that fulfilling the potential. Like there's more to tennis than just slams, right? Like winning Masters 1000s and winning, and making the ATP Tour Finals is a hell of an accomplishment.
True.
There are a lot of really good players out there that never won slams.
There are levels to this. I agree with that. I'm just like, I'm not comparing Draper to Zverev. I'm just like giving the comparison that I don't really take age too much into account when judging someone's potential. I kind of look at them. Where are they now? What do they have to work on? And if they have so many gaping holes in their game, and like when you're that bad physically, I don't like his trajectory.
Makes sense.
So. I don't know. It was it's exactly how the match went out. I probably should have bet the WLWW or the LWWW, I bet the LWWW, but I didn't bet the other way.
And you got the WLWW. Oh man, you got WL.
I should have just placed both because that's how we thought the match would go, whether he would win the first or the second. But because you'd win. I think you'd still be profitable because both were like plus what 400 in that
I
area.
think they were +3 something like from what I saw. So you would have still
Yeah.
been up like 2 units or something.
Right.
It
Probably should
just
have done
states because
that.
basically when you take the two of them together, you're basically getting like the equivalent of like a +130, which that's a little bit of an exact result for a +130.
True. True. In hindsight, everything is
Versus being able
easier.
to take Nakashima at like +320 to just win 3-1 in any way. So that's kind of like those WLWWs or whatever. Like when you pick the exact results of every set.
Mhm.
I really only like them if you're getting like 8 to 10 to 1 at least.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's quickly go into today's matchups. I know we posted a lot on Twitter. A lot of our rationales are up on the Twitter account. I just want to go over a couple matches that we kind of disagree on. Well, not maybe agree to disagree on. Let's talk about the Griekspoor Van de Zandschulp match. I think that's a very
So it's really funny actually because when this matchup was determined, right, when both these guys won their first round,
Mhm.
I thought that my plan was to go hit Griekspoor because I do think he's in a much better run of form, yada yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
But the line came out as like even money. I mean, Bodic is barely a favorite here. He's -120, -1. I got Bodic at -120. I think the line has now come back a little bit towards like -125. But I got Bodic at slightly below even money. And that was my plan, so that's why I hit it. Like, I mean, if you look at the results, like he's a better player than Griekspoor. Griekspoor hasn't beaten. I know Griekspoor looked really good in the Puna run, but he didn't beat the best guy he's beaten in this run is Bonsai. So I'd like to see him beat. He doesn't need to beat like Djokovic or beat like Medvedev or somebody, but at least beat like somebody like the quarter range or the Nakashima range or like the, or somebody in the Agut range. Like beat somebody like that in that like third or fourth tier before we go a little bit. But so I'm pumping the brakes a little bit here on Griekspoor. But I don't think by any means this is like a runaway. Like my line, like if I could have gotten anything better than +150, I would have hit Griekspoor. So
I saw +130 when this matchup was set on Monday. I probably
because the line did move that much before it started to
did move in
Bodic.
Griekspoor's favor as I thought it would. I should have hit it earlier. I got it at +110, I believe. No, +105. And then I bet the Griekspoor -1.5 sets at +180 as well. I don't know. I see you're right with the no top 50 wins. That is definitely true. I'm just going based on the eye test more. I watched the entire VDZ versus Ivashka match. Painful loss. I bet Ivashka +1.5 sets. He was up a break at 5-4. I think he was up 30 love, and then he choked away that set, got broken back, lost 7-5. But if you look at the stat lines of the two matches, the Griekspoor Kotov match and the Van de Zandschulp match, Van de Zandschulp faced 18 break points, whereas Griekspoor faced none. So he's serving on a way higher level right now, Griekspoor. And Van de Zandschulp is actually, he played very tight points against Ivashka. Like, he won the first set, but then like in the entire second set and mid-third, he just played very tight, Van de Zandschulp. Like, not aggressive at all, just very like timid points. So I'm going this, I'm taking this with the plus money, the barely plus money, and I'm going more based on the eye test than like past results in this matchup. But
yeah, I mean, look, like Van de Zandschulp did lose to Bonsai and Puna, so like there's reason to be concerned here. And he honestly hasn't done much since the U.S. Open, so like I just, man, it's
yeah,
it seems like a pretty big gap for it seems like a pretty I was, like I said, I wanted to hit Griekspoor, but this line is just too close to even for me, so that's why I took Bodic. But it's of my 9 bet stays, the one I feel by far the least confident about.
Okay, that's fair. I think the last match I want to talk about is Mute and Cerundolo.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any faith in Cerundolo at this point. Like, so Manny, you mentioned you called him a top 30. We were texting back and forth. You called him a top 30 player today at some point. Either when we were texting
Yeah, I
on
might want to
Twitter.
delete that tweet. I don't think he's playing top 30 tennis.
I was gonna say, maybe did you miss a zero in there? Like top 300, maybe? Like,
I mean, yeah, I mean he's top 30 in terms of the rankings, but he's not playing top 30 tennis. And Mute is a proven Grand Slam performer. He's awkward to play. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Nishioka. Probably a worse version of Nishioka with better hands is probably the way I describe him.
Yeah.
But he's just like a pest out there, right?
I'm just surprised that Cerundolo is a
favorite.
Is a favorite against any competent looking ATP player at this point.
Right.
And I think Mutet's in the top 60 or top 70, right? Because he made that run to the US Open.
Yeah, he made fourth round, took a set off Rude.
So I mean,
like well in slams.
Yeah, I mean, like he's like, to me, Cerundolo's another guy, like, and it's weird because I don't feel like the books are giving him a lot of love in general. It just seems like for whatever reason today he's getting a lot of love. So I don't really understand that line.
Yeah.
All right. We're talking Nadal versus McDonald debate. You really like Nadal in this matchup.
I do. So I mean, I know I mentioned previous pods that Nadal is the guy to fade, but this is best of 5 tennis. This is coming off a tough 5-setter for Mackie. It's the matches during the day. That's another factor, right? So that ball is going to be jumping up. I don't know how hot it is. I think it's actually raining, but just the fact that it's during the day helps Nadal.
Yeah, it is raining. I saw somebody mention that it's raining, so that's a little unfortunate.
That's a little bit. I mean, that's the smallest variable in this pick. I also think Nadal is so anxious and so like motivated to get his form, and I think getting that first win against a competent player like Draper is going to give him some confidence, right? So he didn't win any matches prior to that. He lost to De Minaur and Norrie at the United Cup, and like whenever you're coming off 2 losses and you just like need a win, I think like there's just kind of like, I know it's Nadal and he's won so many matches, but it's just a small monkey off his back. So now I really think he's going to open up, and I think this is the perfect opponent to do that. Like he's going to get a rhythm here. He's going to be able to boss McDonald from side to side. I just think he's going to have opportunities on Mackie's serve, who doesn't serve that big. I don't think McDonald does really anything to truly hurt him. I think he has a decent backhand down the line, but it's not like good enough where it's going to really trouble him. So, and just the mental.
I actually don't like this matchup for Nadal as much as you do. I think Mackie's not going to go out there and hit a million winners, but I do think it'll annoy Nadal. The fact he's going to hit the ball, he's going to keep the ball low with the flatter strokes. He'll go in either direction. So I don't think it's going to be as much of a rhythm match for Nadal as what you're saying.
Okay.
That said, I do think the best of 5, the fact that McDonald played a long 5-setter against Nakashima, which is both, and given McDonald's recent form and his struggles, like that's a big win for him emotionally and mentally. So I'm worried about how he's going to come off that. If I had to bet it, I would lean the way you're leaning it on it, but I'm staying away because I do think I don't think McDonald's as bad as a matchup as you're saying, but I am worried. I'm not worried about McDonald's compete level. I'm just worried about like if he'll have the energy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not high on McDonald to begin with, right? So I don't know. It's Nadal at a slam, like that speaks for a lot. Like you just say those words and that speaks for a lot. Like, I don't think I would bet -1.5 sets if they were playing best of 3 in this form. Like, but in a slam, it's just different, So,
so what are your thoughts on Tiafoe? I think that's probably the last one we disagree. I think everything else we're pretty much straight on each other on. But what do you think about Tiafoe down there?
So I know you're extremely high on Shang, which I don't like bash you for that. Like he's a good player. He has good rally tolerance. I see promise in his game. I just think this is like a man amongst boys. This is like the kind of way. I mean, you see Tiafoe with this like sleeveless shirt. I think he's like twice the size of Shang. Like that's how it feels to me.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, right? And that I think that's relevant actually in this matchup. So I don't disagree with that analysis.
I also think like this is the end of the road for Shang, right? So Shang has had a great run.
Why is this the end of the road, though?
At some point, like, you're mentally, like, you're not satisfied, but you're kind of like,
you're the one who just said a qualifier always makes the third or fourth round.
It's not him. It's not Shang. There's some other qualifiers to go around.
What?
There are some other qualifiers that made it to the second round. We'll leave it to one of the other guys. I don't think it's Shang. I don't think
Shang wins this match, but I do have him to win a set.
Okay.
I think that Tiafoe, and granted, this will be in John Kane in that Kane arena, so they actually should
put atmosphere
advantage. What?
That's a good atmosphere. That's Kyrgios's favorite court. So
yeah, that should play to Tiafoe's advantage. Mm-hmm. Maybe, but I don't know. But also the crowd might get behind Shang because it's a great story and he's a Chinese kid. So the crowd might back him.
But he's got to show something. Like, he's got to win a set or be really competitive in order for them to back him.
Well, right? I mean, if he gets like 3-all, I think they'll back him in a set.
Okay.
So I think that's probably the biggest thing. I think there will be a dip from Tiafoe. So ironically, we're now switching, right? This is 2 matches in a row where now you want to basically bet a guy in straights, and I want to bet a guy not in straights.
I think I bet the game spread here. I didn't bet the set spread because I think, like, if Shang pulls out a set, it's going to be probably 7-6 or 7-5.
So do you think that both can be true? Do you think that
I do?
Do you think that Tiafoe covers 6.5 and Shang wins a set?
I don't think Shang wins a set. If I had to lean that way, I wouldn't bet it though. Okay. But I think if Shang wins a set, it would be really close set, and he would just pull it out, squeak it out. But I think the potential for a Tiafoe 6-2 or 6-1 set is quite high here because Shang lost a 6-2 set to Verdasco.
True. Yeah, I mean, look, I actually think that both could be true here, or close to it. I think this spread is pretty good, and I also think I also think Shang will win a set. But I could actually see 6.5 might be a lot, but I could easily see Tiafoe getting to 6, 5 or 6 with a at a 3-1.
Yeah. Interesting matchup though. I am looking forward to that one.
Yeah. What's your favorite bet of the day, Manny, of all these bets?
Bet of the day, the absolute favorite one, I'd probably say it's Daniel versus Shapo over 3.5 sets at -5.
I 100% agree. That's my bet of the day as well. I think that Shapo is so erratic, and I talked about this in the last podcast, right? Like, erratic doesn't necessarily mean he's always bad. Like, people use erratic as this bad phrase, but it just means he's all over the place. But like, sometimes he's good, right? Sometimes he smacks the ball on the court. Like, it's not like it's always out. But I think like there's too much. Like, he's too erratic to beat, especially a guy like Taro Daniel in 3 sets.
Yeah, Daniel is steady, right? He's going to get all the balls back, and he's going
to. I think Daniel is going to. I think Shap is going to hand Daniel 1 set. I think it'll be 3-1. I think Shap will hand Daniel one set.
But if Shapo is missing all day, this could easily be Daniel in straight sets. It could easily. I think Shapo wins 1. I'm not, but I think it could be in 4, right? Like if Shapo.
I think Shapo wins this. I think Shapo wins this, but I think.
Right.
I also love that Medvedev under 18.5 games. I'm not sure how that's -120. Like, Milman just has nothing. Like, it's not as bad, but it's similar to RCB versus Djokovic last night.
It is quite similar.
Like, in terms of the matchup, we're like
better than Millman at this point.
It's close. Like, Millman is the only thing Millman has going for him at all in this match was that he's at home at night. That's all he's going for him.
Right. And it's not Federer who he's playing. He's playing Medvedev.
Right.
Who would have thought that? But if he was playing Federer, I might hit Millman. That's like Federer's kryptonite.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of the tennis, any other interesting tennis to discuss? I don't know. Like, there's really not any other, like, I think Khachanov Kubler is kind of an interesting matchup. I think Kubler probably there's a decent chance Kubler gets a set, but I didn't bet it. I don't know. That match scares me. I have no idea how that match is going to go.
The only way I hit this is Khachanov to lose the first set and win the match. Khachanov tends to start matches slow. That's like his MO.
Yeah.
Like he's physically extremely strong. So like I still think he wins it, but like at plus 380, I like that value. I'm excited about the Monterino Isner match starting because I bet Monterino to lose the first and win the match, which happened. Isner won the first in the tiebreak. The fact that they didn't finish yesterday and it's restarting kind of like makes me a little nervous.
I think that favors Isner.
It does. It does. That's the problem. So
I think Harris Fucevich could be the match of the night in terms of like an instant classic. I think that could be a classic match. That to me has 5 sets written all over it.
I didn't place the over there because they both played 5 last match.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a dangerous one. I mean, I could
like,
see Harris running out of gas. Fucevich won't. Fucevich is like a Greek god, but I could see.
Yeah, this is in my degenerate parlay. I did Monterino to win 3-2 against Isner, Fucevich to win 3-2 against Harris, and Kachanov to win 3-1 against Kubler at 100-1. So that's my one degenerate parlay. My second degenerate parlay is Molchan versus Felix at over 3.5 sets, Fucevich to win in 5, Greek Sport money line, Kachanov versus Kubler 4 sets, and Cerundolo versus Mute 4 sets. So that's 203-1. So that's the second degenerate parlay. Do you have any degenerate parlays?
I mean, I have a 9-legger, so that's like 400-1 or something. So that I have to put in the spreadsheet still, but that's my degenerate parlay.
Fair.
But
All right.
I think we've probably wrapped up. I think we've probably talked mostly about the tennis for the night. I think we've probably covered. I looked at the other matches. I don't really see anything interesting. I don't know about you.
Any just takeaways for the bottom, like tennis takeaways from the bottom half of the draw? I know not all the matches are set yet, but like, do you like?
I don't know, man. I think like that bottom section's interesting, right? The one with Ruud, the Ruud section's interesting, and
Berrettini is out now, so I mean, it makes your RBA pick much better.
Yeah, for sure, right? And because I don't think the answer is Murray. I don't think the answer is the winner of Kokkinakis Fognini. I think it's a Gut, or I think it's potentially Tommy Paul.
I agree. I think Paul is probably the favorite there. Granted, Ruud's form recent.
Yeah, I think maybe either him or a Gut. I mean, a Gut might be a little bit of a better performer in slams, but right. Paul's had some pretty good runs too.
Do you think Brooksby is a live dog against Ruud?
I'm
curious to see the line.
I think so. Yeah, I think he's a live dog. I'm curious to see what the line is there.
Yeah, the books tend to give Brooksby a lot of respect, to be honest.
They do. So they do.
I would be surprised. Like if Ruud is anywhere between like minus 150, I'd probably have to hit him. You know?
Yeah.
So and then do you think Murray has any chance against Kokkinakis? Kokkinakis is going to beat Fognini, but like
yeah. I mean, I think Murray could get to the 3rd round, but I don't think he has a chance beyond.
You don't think physically that's going to take like too much of a toll on him?
Well, if he plays Kokkinakis, it's not a hard match physically, right?
Yeah, I mean, Kokkinakis is playing pretty well, Adelaide or not. Like,
no, but I'm saying it's not a hard match physically. He's not going to extend rallies.
Right. I would be very curious to see the line there because I don't know. 5 sets, 5 hours against Berrettini coming back.
That is tough. That is brutal.
With a metal hip. I don't know. I would have to see the line. If I can get good value in Kokkinakis, I might have to hit it, but it all depends on the price there. And I have a feeling that might be the night match.
Oh, I'm guessing it will be because Murray's just such a popular guy, right? All-time GOAT. Well, not all-time GOAT, but all-time great.
Yeah. Yeah. How about JJ Wolf against Schwartzman? You think
I mean, that's just such an ugly match. Like, it's not ugly in terms of like I don't know, neither one of those guys is a contender, right? Like Wolf is too up and down, and Schwartzman is not a contender right now.
I mean, I think I saw that line at minus 170 for Wolf. I was hoping to get a better number on it, but
I think that's probably a well set line. Like Schwartzman has been so bad.
I might, if I could get plus money on Wolf minus 1.5 sets, because I think Wolf is going to hold serve pretty easily, and I think he's going to have so many looks on Schwartzman.
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, Schwartzman's one of the best returners on the tour, even still.
Not now. I mean, he's struggling to hold. He was struggling on the return game versus Krutik.
Okay.
I don't know.
I didn't see the Krutik Schwartzman match, so I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, it's all kind of.
There's other matches. I just don't think they're particularly interesting.
There was one more interesting one. It's near the Ruud section. ADF against Paul. ADF is a.
I mean, that's really fun for a second rounder.
Yeah.
I
Paul is a
mean,
sizable favorite there, but
well, she should be. I mean, he's been a much better player than Fulkina lately. This should suit him better. This conditions here should suit him. I mean, from a fitness perspective, probably Fulkina, but Fulkina just went 5 sets with Bublik, so I don't know.
yeah, I don't think fitness is going to be a problem. I just think tennis wise, Paul's just playing way better.
Yeah.
Yeah. De Minaur against Monterino or Isner could be an interesting second round match. Dimitrov Jere, I just kind of thinking about that matchup from before it happens. I would probably hit the over there again. That's
Yeah, probably. I would
right.
agree with that.
Got to see the lines again, but yeah, I mean it's interesting. Once we get to the third round and the seeds start meeting, I'm sure they're going to be.
Well, that's when we'll have our
available.
quarterfinals podcast, right? We'll have our 5th podcast, which is our quarterfinals podcast. We'll have our 6th round, which will be the semis, and we'll have our finals.
Final. I don't know if we'll do a podcast for each of the rounds, but I think we'll get more into like props and all that stuff.
I was making a joke, 7 podcasts for 7 rounds of the tournament.
That's a lot. That's a lot for guys.
We're already at 4.
Jobs.
We're already at 4.
That's true. That's true. But we're actually getting such a good viewing, and like the Twitter following is just beyond belief. We're so thankful for everyone.
Yeah, for real. We didn't call people out today, but we are thankful for the few of you that do watch us. It's surprising but interesting, and the amount of call-outs on Twitter and the discussion on Twitter has been great as well. So
yeah, definitely. Well, again, everyone enjoy the matches. Thanks for tuning in, and I think we'll call it for today.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and have a good viewing experience.
All right, take care, guys. Wait.